Yesterday, I had a subscriber reach out to me for the first time in about 2 years, since the very tippy top of the last bull cycle. I checked the message. It was about right around the top, around October, November of 2021. And in this new message that I had received, it said something along the lines of, the bull market is back. The bulls are back. This is gonna be big. But he ended that message with a question, and it just said something to the effect of, Tyler, aren't you worried? Aren't you scared? I believe it was. Aren't you scared that you're about to make too much money? And I stopped for a second. Even though I knew what my response was, I stopped for a second and I thought to myself, here it is. So my response back was simple. I said, no, I'm not scared. I'm not scared at all. In fact, at this point, I don't even feel fear. And I said, I'll be honest with you, I don't feel a lot of things anymore. But there's one thing that I feel, I said. And I said, I feel bullish. I said, I feel bullish. And now, what do I mean by that, right? Well, I was actually looking at Bitcoin dominance yesterday. I was looking at the cycles. I was looking at the halvings. We're a couple months away from this next halving for Bitcoin. The fourth halving for Bitcoin. This is gigantic. And a few months before the halving leading up to it, what did we do back in 2019 as we were going into the 2020 halving? What did we do prior to the 2016 halving, right? What was price doing for Bitcoin? And it turns out that Bitcoin was, I'm sure we all know this, I do check this every month or so, but basically if we zoom out, there is one more possibility of somewhat of a decent sized dump. There's one more possibility of that. But if we're being honest, much of what we're about to witness, much of what we're about to see over the next 6 to 12 months, potentially all the way up to 16, 18 months from now, much what we're about to see is massive, gigantic, extremely big, gargantuan gains. And so that's one of the reasons that I'm bullish, to be honest. Now as well, for people that have been in crypto for an entire cycle, that includes 2 years of a bear market plus the 2 years of a bull market, not just, let's say, the second year of a bull market and the next 2 years of a bear market. But for people that have been in full cycles, I'm sure many of you, I don't know if all of you, I can't do a poll or something. I would say most people would agree that where we are right now feels extremely reminiscent of late 2019, early 2020, but in a much bigger way, in a much more bullish way, considering the entire climate, considering everything. Now, with that being said, for the past 2 years, and I think that this year of 2023 was a test where people had their psychology tested, meaning people got very, very destroyed in 2022, and 2023 destroyed them even more if you stuck to your bias of just being bearish. Because in a bear market, we do plateau at a certain point, right? Let's say we go from 50, or let's say we go from 65K to 50K or 40K, and then we trade sideways there for a decent amount of time. And then we get dumped on, we bring it down to the next level, let's say 30K. And we trade there for a decent amount of time. And let's say then time goes on enough, and then the next big move, from 30K, and we drop down to 20K. And you get conditioned to believe every time we're testing support, every time we come to these levels, you get conditioned to be scared and to expect further dumping. And now for the very first time, once we broke 30K just a couple of weeks ago and we broke 35K, for the first time, I think a lot of people now finally are starting to wake up to the fact about, hey, wait, This type of structure, this type of movement, this type of price action is closer to bear market. Sorry, is closer to bull market. Is closer to a bull market than it is to a bear market. Now, funny enough, I just said bear market. A lot of people still believe, albeit a little bit less, that this is still a full-fledged bear market. But as I said, I think that that transition from bear to bull is a very big gray area for a lot of people. But ultimately, this last move up from about, when we got all the way up to about 38K, I think a lot of people maybe are a little bit convinced, hey, I think we missed most of this pump, the beginning stages of this pump, but there's plenty more to come. And so where we are right now is that when we have those levels where we do trade sideways for multiple weeks, even sometimes months, like we've seen over this year of 2023, we traded at what? We traded between 25 and 30K for, I believe, like 6 months or something. Most people are understanding now the bias and the strength is to the upside. How many people are really left to sell? How can we even get down? We only got down to 15K because it turns out we had literally SBF telling his underlings to literally try and keep it under 20K and all this stuff. We had a concerted effort to really try to keep Bitcoin as low as it could be and crash it as much as it could be crashed. And we went down to 15.5K. So technically anything is possible, right? Nothing's impossible. Anybody that has any experience will tell you anything is possible. Things are either more likely or less likely. But for us to get back down to 15K, or sorry, for us to get back down to 25K, let alone 20K, let alone 15K, let alone this idea of going to 10K or even lower, I think most people have been convinced at this point that, let's be realistic. Even though I just said anything is possible, the chances of that happening are so absurd. So with that being said, I think that's lending itself to people really accepting reality, which is we are and we have been for the past 11 months in a much more bullish place. And every time we come to one of these resistances that has been a very scary or like intimidating level for the past couple of years, over time, we're doing what Bitcoin does in a bull market, which is break those levels. And we're seeing altcoins rise from the ashes a little bit, and we're starting to get a taste of that. And we're starting to see the smallest amounts of euphoria come back. Now, what's really important about that, however, is this. One thing people in the bear market also have been conditioned to believe is that once people start getting bullish, once price goes up a little bit, maybe 5%, 10%, and then people start getting bullish again and happy and excited and posted green arrows, once that happens, hey, the top must be close. We're about to get dumped on again, right? Well, this is important because what I said a couple minutes ago in this video is that if you've been through a full cycle, you know something that people that have not been through a full cycle know. And in fact, it's the part of the cycle where the least amount of people have experienced. The least amount of people have experienced the very beginning stages of a bull market. Why? Because most people get in probably at the top. They experience, a couple months probably of really good gains. And then they experience like the 2 years after where they get dumped on. But the people that stay through those 2 years, that number dwindles and dwindles as the cycle goes on. But the people that do stay eventually experience the rarest part, the least seen part of a bull market, which is the very beginning, or the least seen part of an entire cycle of the entire 4 years, which is the beginning stages of a bull market. Because to be at the beginning stages of a bull market, to be experiencing the beginning stages of a bull market, it means you would have had to go through 2 years basically of getting dumped on, which it takes a certain type of person with conviction, usually, to be able to stay long enough to experience that. So with that being said, if you have experienced that, then you know that euphoria can last for a long time. We can start to see, and in fact it has to for a bull market to be a bull market. There has to be moments where price goes up a lot, 15, 30, 50%, and you start thinking, wow, this has gone up a lot. There's no way it can go up much more, right? And then it goes up another 50%, another 50%, and so on and so forth. And that is exactly what defines a bull market. And it's exactly something unique to the beginning stages of a bull market. Because in a bear market, you're not going to see 50% gains followed by sideways, followed by 50% gains, followed by sideways, followed by 50% gains. By definition, that's not a bear market. So if you're still in that bear mindset, you have to adjust that mindset, or you will not benefit as much as you could be benefiting from this upcoming bull market. So I think the key takeaway is that you need to psychologically, you need each and every one of you to take the most out of this and succeed. You need to make sure you're on the right wavelength, and you need to make sure that you understand the fundamental difference of where we are right now and where we're heading, to truly capture the biggest gainers that you could ever imagine.